Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Israeli airstrikes across the Gaza Strip have killed at least 13 Palestinians today, one day after Israeli attacks killed 48 others, including 5 children killed on a Gaza City street in an Israeli drone strike. Separately, 4 Palestinians were killed, 3 of them children, when Israel bombed a tent camp for displaced people near Khan Yunis. It's the latest attack by Israel on an area its military had designated as a so-called safe zone. Israel's unrelenting assault continued as Palestinian officials say Israel's total siege of Gaza has led to over 65,000 cases of acute malnutrition in children. This is Khan Yunis resident Basma Sheikh Khalil.
We call on the International Court of Justice to help in opening the crossings because the people are starving. This is a starvation policy. There is no flour and no food. There is nothing coming into the Gaza Strip. The people, both young and old, are sick. They can't find food or water to drink.
The International Court of Justice is holding a second day of hearings into Israel's obligations to provide humanitarian aid into Gaza. Earlier today, South Africa's representative told a panel of judges, quote, under the world's watchful eye, Palestinians are being subjected to atrocity, crimes, persecution, apartheid, and genocide, unquote. Throughout the week, representatives of 38 countries are set to address the court. Only 2 of those nations, the U.S. and Hungary, will testify in support of Israel's siege of Gaza. On Monday, Israel's foreign minister, Gideon Saar, rejected the proceedings as part of a systematic persecution of Israel.
Israel decided not to take part in this circus. The UN has become a rotten, anti-Israel and anti-Semitic body.
Meanwhile, Amnesty International has accused Israel of carrying out a live-stream genocide in Gaza with the support of both major political parties in the United States. That's part of an assessment in Amnesty's annual State of the World's Human Rights Report, which is out today. In it, Amnesty's Secretary General Agnes Kalamar writes, quote, 2024 will be remembered for how Israel's military occupation grew ever more brazen and deadly, for the way the USA, Germany, and a handful of other European states supported Israel, the way the USA under the Biden administration repeatedly vetoed UN Security Council resolutions calling for a ceasefire and states' continued arms transfers to Israel, unquote. The UN's warning ongoing U.S. attacks on Yemen pose a deadly risk to civilians after a U.S. strike on a migrant detention center in the north of the country killed at least 68 people Monday and injured dozens more. Most or all the victims are believed to be migrants from African nations. This is Dawood Jibril from Ethiopia, a survivor of the attack.
We were sleeping in the prison when the aircraft struck. It bombed us, and then everyone was injured. Some were hit by debris, others had their legs amputated, and some were injured in their eyes and lost their sight. Many people died.
The U.S. has killed over 250 people in Yemen since escalating its attacks against Houthi forces in mid-March. A number of advocacy groups and progressive Democrats have demanded President Trump stop attacking Yemen and argued the strikes are unconstitutional as they've not been approved by Congress. In Canada, Mark Carney of the Liberal Party narrowly won snap elections and will remain in power as Prime Minister, defeating Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, who also lost his own seat in Parliament. Carney's victory comes amidst heightened tensions with the U.S. over Trump's tariffs and threats to annex Canada. Early Monday, Trump once again threatened to make Canada the 51st state. In his victory speech, Prime Minister Carney maintained the defiant tone that helped him surge in popularity in the weeks preceding the election, telling voters, quote, our old relationship with the United States is over.
America wants our land, our resources, our water, our country. Never. But these are not idle threats. President Trump is trying to break us so that America can own us. That will never, ever happen.
It's still unclear if liberals will secure enough votes to form a majority government, though they're projected to fall just shy of the 172 seats required. Meanwhile, the head of Canada's new Democratic Party, Jagmeet Singh, announced he's stepping down as party leader after the NDP was projected to lose over 2/3 of its seats, including his own. President Trump signed 3 more executive orders further cracking down on the rights of immigrants and asylum seekers. One order seeks to compile a list of so-called sanctuary cities that refuse to cooperate with Trump's mass deportation policies. A second order further militarizes local police departments while providing legal resources to officers accused of abuses. It also seeks to undo federal consent decrees for departments that have committed civil rights abuses and seeks to punish local officials who, quote, unlawfully prohibit law enforcement officers from carrying out duties, unquote. A third executive order requires professional truck drivers to be proficient in English. On Monday, staffers placed signs on the White House lawn showing mug shots of immigrants linking them to crimes with the word arrested written in all caps. This comes as House Republicans have proposed a bill that would charge people arriving at a U.S. port of entry $1,000 in order to file an asylum claim and a $3,500 fee for those sponsoring children. The right to seek asylum is a fundamental human right enshrined in international law, and the U.S. has never before charged petitioners. A U.S. lawyer representing 10 Venezuelan men deported without due process to El Salvador by the Trump administration says she was denied access to her clients at the notorious Sicat prison. Kerry Kennedy said from San Salvador on Monday, she'd also hoped to document human rights abuses inside the prison.
The President of the United States has done so following the same script that President Bukele has used against his own people, the label of terrorists, the gang members, without any shred of evidence and any semblance of due process.
Kerry Kennedy is a sister of Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy, Jr., and the daughter of the assassinated former Attorney General and presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy. The Trump administration's dismissed some 400 researchers involved in putting together the National Climate Assessment. The flagship governmental report is designed to help local and federal authorities respond to the evolving climate crisis and is published every few years by congressional mandate. The 6th edition of the assessment was scheduled to be released in 2028, though its publication is now in question. In related news, federal cuts ordered by Elon Musk's Doge operation have canceled AmeriCorps' National Civilian Community Corps, which places over 2,000 young people in community nonprofits or in disaster recovery roles. Over 2/3 of the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division staff are expected to leave their jobs, accepting a resignation offer as the Trump administration moves to drastically reshape the agency. The new director of the DOJ's Civil Rights Division, Harmeet K. Dillon, has ordered workers to turn their attention to combating anti-Semitism, anti-Christian bias, and so-called woke ideology. As part of the division's overhaul, senior positions overseeing the Justice Department's work on voting rights have been removed, and attorneys have been directed to dismiss all active cases. As President Trump marks 100 days back in office, new polls show his approval rating around 40%, the lowest rating for the first 100 days of any president in 80 years. A Washington Post-ABC News poll found even fewer people trust the Democratic Party, with nearly 7 in 10 saying it's out of touch, while 6 in 10 say Trump is out of touch. As the so-called Department of Government Efficiency also marks 100 days of gutting the federal government, a new Senate report finds Elon Musk and his businesses could avoid over $2 billion in potential legal liability thanks to cuts Musk enacted as head of Doge. When Trump was inaugurated, Musk was facing up to 65 actions from 11 federal agencies targeting SpaceX, Tesla, Neuralink, the Boeing company, and XAI. That's the Boring Company. Senate Democrats now say Musk has largely averted those actions thanks to DOJ helping him, quote, evade oversight, derail investigations, and make litigation disappear whenever he so chooses on his terms and at his command, unquote. President Trump's pardoned Paul Wolchak, a Florida healthcare executive convicted of tax evasion for stealing nearly $11 million in payroll taxes from the paychecks of doctors and nurses. Just 12 days ago, a jury found him guilty after prosecutors showed he used the money to finance a lavish lifestyle that included luxury goods and a $2 million yacht. He is the son of Betsy Fago, a healthcare entrepreneur and Republican Party donor. Meanwhile, President Trump has pardoned a Republican former Las Vegas City Councilwoman and state lawmaker from Nevada who was convicted in October of embezzling funds. Michelle Fiore was found guilty of 6 counts of federal wire fraud and 1 count of conspiracy for raising over $70,000 for the statue of a slain Las Vegas police officer and instead using the money to pay for rent, plastic surgery, and her daughter's wedding. Democratic leaders led a 12-hour sit-in protest on the Capitol steps as lawmakers returned to Washington, D.C. to take up a budget for the 2026 fiscal year. The New York Times reports the White House is proposing a budget that would cut billions of dollars from programs that support childcare, health research, education, housing assistance, community development, and the elderly. Meanwhile, 3 civil rights leaders were arrested Monday as they held prayers inside the Capitol Rotunda to protest against the Republican-led budget bill. Among the arrested was Reverend William J. Barber, president of Repairers of the Breach and co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign.
How many of you believe, even more than you did when you came here, that this budget is a moral issue? And that this current budget is, say this with me if you believe it, it is morally indefensible, it's constitutionally inconsistent, and it's economically insane.
Electricity has been restored to most of Spain and Portugal after a massive power failure unexpectedly struck the Iberian Peninsula Monday. The widespread blackout stranded rail and airline passengers, shuttered schools, businesses and offices, and forced hospitals to operate on emergency generators. Spanish and Portuguese authorities say they're still determining the cause of one of the biggest power outages ever seen in Europe. And the Vatican says it'll begin the process of selecting a new pope May 7th. Some 135 cardinals, all of them men under the age of 80, will begin a closed-door meeting on that date to vote for the new leader of the 1.4 billion-member Catholic Church. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org.